They say some moments on America's Got Talent change a life forever, but no one in the audience that night knew they were seconds away from witnessing a performance that would shake the entire room. If you're watching this right now, stay with me until the end, because what happened after Simon stopped the audition at just 10 seconds is something you will never forget. And if stories like this inspire you, make sure to like this video and subscribe, because we are just getting started. The theater lights dimmed, the audience buzzed softly, and from behind the curtains walked a shy, soft-spoken 27-year-old Filipino man named Marco de la Cruz. He wore a simple denim jacket, neatly combed black hair, and shoes that had seen better days, but his eyes carried a fire he'd spent his whole life trying to protect. Marco wasn't a stranger to hard work. He grew up in a small town in the Philippines where music wasn't just entertainment, it was survival. His mother worked double shifts at a small sari-sari store, and his father, once a guitarist who dreamed of stages, lost his job years ago. Marco had spent most of his childhood singing on sidewalks, at small fiestas, and even at bus stops, hoping that someone would drop a few coins that could help with school or that night's meal. He dreamed of stages, but life kept pushing him away from them. Still, every night, he would sit on their small rooftop, close his eyes, and listen to old Elvis tracks his father saved from worn-out CDs. The king of rock and roll became his comfort, his teacher, and eventually, his identity. People in his town began calling him the Filipino Elvis. Not as a joke, because he earned it. When he finally made it to America, everything felt like a second chance. He didn't have much money. He worked in a bakery during the day and washed dishes at night. But every hour he wasn't working, he was practicing. And every dollar he could save, he saved for the audition he had chased for years. AGT wasn't a dream anymore, it was the only path left. So there he stood on that giant stage, hands trembling as he held the microphone. "What's your name?" Simon asked, giving him a curious look. "My name is Marco." "I came from the Philippines," he replied softly. "What will you be doing for us today?" "I'll be singing Elvis." A few people in the audience giggled. Not mockingly, just surprised. Another Elvis impersonation? The judges exchanged glances. They'd seen many. They'd rejected most. The music began, and Marco barely completed the first line when suddenly Simon raised his hand. "Stop." The entire audience gasped. Some people even groaned. Marco froze. His heart dropped. Years of struggle, sacrifice, and dreaming, was this how it all ended? Simon stared at him for a moment, eyes narrowed as if trying to read the boy's soul. Then he leaned forward. "Marco, you have a voice. But you're holding back. You're singing safely. I want to hear who you are, not a copy of Elvis." Marco felt his chest tighten. He wanted to explain everything, the years of self-doubt, the nights he practiced until his voice cracked, the fear of disappointing everyone back home. But he could only whisper, I understand." Simon nodded. "Good. Now start again. No more fear. Sing like this is your last chance." That was the moment everything changed. Marco closed his eyes, inhaled deeply, and when he opened them again, something inside him had shifted. He wasn't just singing anymore, he was letting his entire life speak through him. The moment his voice soared on the second attempt, the audience was stunned. This wasn't an impersonation. This was raw emotion, power, and pain wrapped in a soul-stirring tone that made the hairs on everyone's arms stand. His notes cracked with honesty. His body moved with passion. His voice carried a haunting ache of someone who had lived every lyric. And halfway through the performance, something unbelievable happened. The audience stood to their feet, cheering, screaming, crying. Even the judges looked shaken. Heidi pressed her hands to her chest, eyes glistening. Howie whispered, "This guy, wow." Sophia watched him like she was witnessing a movie scene come to life. And Simon Cowell, known for being brutally honest, sat back in his chair stunned, almost emotional. That didn't happen often. When Marco hit the final note, a soaring, heartbreaking echo, the room exploded. The cheers were deafening. Marco stood there, overwhelmed, shaking, tears threatening to fall. He had spent his whole life feeling small. But at that moment, in that huge theater, he finally felt seen. Simon leaned toward his mic again. The room went silent. "Marco," he said softly, "this is why we stop people. Not to embarrass them, but because we know there's something incredible inside them. What you just did was unbelievable. You didn't sing like Elvis. You sang like Marco. And that is a star." The crowd roared. Marco covered his face, overwhelmed. "Actually," Simon continued with a small smile, "I think this deserves something else." The audience knew what was coming, they started screaming. Simon stood up. And he slammed the golden buzzer. The golden confetti rained from above like the heavens themselves were celebrating him. Marco fell to his knees, crying into his hands as his lifelong dream unfolded around him. The judges stood and applauded. The audience chanted his name. In that moment, every hardship, every sacrifice, every night he sang to no one, it all led here. His parents were shown backstage watching the screen, crying as they saw their son rise to a place they once believed was too far. Marco wasn't just a singer now. He was a symbol of hope, proof that no matter where you come from, no matter how many times life pushes you down, one brave moment can change everything. As he walked off stage wrapped in a golden glow, he whispered, "This is for everyone who never stopped believing in me." And that, not the song, not even the golden buzzer, is what made the world fall in love with him. If you felt something today, if Marco's journey touched you, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because stories like his remind us all of one thing. Sometimes life only gives you 10 seconds to prove yourself. But if you use those seconds with everything you have, the world will listen.